Good morning. It's Friday. It is finally Friday, and it has been a heck of a week. Welcome to the Friday Grief Chat. This is where normally we say, I'm Jill, that's Deb, but that's not Deb because Deb has got some people listening to her elsewhere today. Can you imagine? She left us to talk to other people. So I'm here, and it is the week that we lost like everybody. We lost so many of our people. And I am right now pulling up the Facebook page for this because I wanted to see what the comments are that folks are making about all the losses we've had in our world this week, because it's been a lot. It started with Hayden sort of last week, and then it became everyone else. And it started with, of all people, Dolly. Like, how are we supposed to, and that was my first thought, how are we as a community, as a world, because we've seen lights turned on for Dolly Parton from Adelaide and Sydney to New York, and good on you, New York, turning them on at 9:25 in the evening, to Chicago, to Dubai, to everywhere. Everyone lit up for Dolly. And that was followed on the heels, just on the heels of Dolly came the loss of our favorite guy from our favorite movie, From Everywhere. And then we lost Eeyore. Like, how do you not have the voice of Eeyore? Now, Eeyore's going to live on, but Eeyore literally lost his voice yesterday. How many of us grew up thinking Eeyore was the guy that accepted absolutely everyone, never faked that he was happy, never acted like he was totally happy, but never really acted like he was totally down? In therapy land, he's dysthymic, which means low-grade depression, but you can still go on in this world and occasionally see some happy, which is kind of how some therapists feel by 6 o'clock on Friday night, to be fair, or Saturday, depending on if they work weekends. It's the loss of Dolly's energy that, oh, honey, we don't have to listen to the noise. We can still make good. And you can have any faith you want or none. You can love anyone you want or none. She could be married to Carl for 60 years and keep that as her very own inside her nuclear family so that nobody got to be part of that, which, if you think about Hollywood and the music industry, is almost unheard of. Thank you, Steve. Tim Curry. Yes. Tim Curry is the one who, way before it was safe for any man to wear fishnets and heels and a garter in public, could put on the outfit and strut and the nails and the face and pull it off and bring everyone else in. If you're my age, you grew up going to the movie theater at midnight on Friday, and you got to dance along and go up on the stage and light your lighter, because, yeah, we carried lighters, even though most of us didn't smoke. And we carried our spray bottles so it could rain. And we did all the things, and we could sing all the songs. And I will tell you, as a good parent, I have raised my children with Rocky Horror, and they have gone to our local cemetery, and we brought our young neighbor along. Now she knows Rocky Horror. It is part of the culture here to know Rocky Horror, and the acceptance and the craziness and the wackiness of all of that it was. It was Dolly who could speak to people from the 60s onward who had the music that I would love to play today. But if you play music on a recording, then the internet very ungraciously takes it down. It does not allow such a thing because you can't have music that's copyrighted on a recording. So we won't be able to listen to the music, but I want you to listen, and I want you to think about what was your favorite music from Dolly? I have unabashedly been clear that for me, it's Hard Candy Christmas, and the recording she did with Kenny Rogers. I've been listening to country music this week, and they're doing a special. Heather Froglier is doing a special this Sunday morning in Dolly's honor. I've watched people who live near her who are ringing her house with flowers. And then overnight last night, the King of Norway died. I know most of you probably don't pay attention to the King of Norway as much as you might pay attention if you're a royal watcher to the royal house in Windsor, but I'm Norwegian and I pay attention. Coat of Many Colors, yes, and Jolene. You're not allowed to sing it either, Ian. If they catch the words being done, you can't play them. So you'll have to sing them along in the background. And the King of Norway was one of those people who was known, like Dolly, for being inclusive. One of his most famous speeches was after a hate attack where many people died. And he made a statement that Norway is people where girls love girls and boys love boys and girls love boys, and you don't have to love anyone. And they are Christian and they are Muslim and they don't worship anyone, or they worship something else entirely, where they come from all corners of the world, and where he as king came from immigrant parents. Not far immigrant, because he's related to King Charles too, but immigrant. He was Danish. So there's that piece as well. And he's got immigrant grandchildren-in-law and has been very loving towards them as well. We have lost an extraordinary number of people who played an extraordinary number of roles in our world this week, and people who seem to put the best out there. People who, like Dolly, funded books. I've lost count of how many books. I've seen multiple counts. I've seen accounts from children who said Dolly knew them because she sent them books. And they thought Dolly was personally picking out their books and mailing them to her, because Dolly sent books with her name on them to children all over the country. Dolly worked on COVID vaccine and AIDS funding, and she spoke up for Black Lives Matter, and she spoke up against people who were being horrible to immigrants. She paid her employees a living wage in an area where living wage doesn't exist. Yeah, that's right, the Moderna vaccine. Exactly right, Steve. She was that person who didn't just talk about doing, she did the doing. And she did it in such a big way. And yet, on a good day, you could sing along with her music. And it could be rock and roll, because when she was honored by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, she made a rock album at the age of 78 or 79. She had country albums. She had easy listening albums. She wrote a song that Whitney Houston made famous. She acted. She made a movie with some of our most famous actresses that talked about the need for child care and fair wages for women and equality in the workplace. She was that person. And in a time where there has been almost an overwhelming sense of, how are we going to keep going right now? How do we keep doing this? How do we keep our chins up and our heads clear and find ways to smile even when things are being said that are unkind, how do we continue to look at humanity in a positive way, regardless of what humanity is doing, and value people individually? How do we do that? I will tell you, my own sister is a special ed teacher, and Gail had the book fair at her school in Moreno Valley this week, and she went shopping, and now I have an entire bag of books from Great Aunt Gail to send to my grandchildren, because that's how she does Dolly. She takes care of children by making sure kids have clothes to wear for school pictures, and that there are presents at the holidays, and that book fairs happen for my grandchildren, because I don't get to go to book fairs. They don't do that for us in the rest of the world. It's called a bookstore, and you have to have time to go shopping. She left us with an imprint and with hope. And the King of Norway did that as well for his people. They were out in the public square today and in the cathedrals today, and it looked like a smaller version of when Diana died in Norway and does right now. And I know Tim Curry has things being left at his star and in other places that mark his place. There's such a need for gathering together and public mourning as a group. And if you're only listening to this, hand gestures are happening because I talk with my hands. And to do the mourning together and to talk about it together and to acknowledge the loss. I was at Project Food on Wednesday night, which is where we feed those who can't afford a meal or are on the street and need a meal, at First Congregational Church in downtown Riverside every Wednesday night for 42 years. And there were servers who were wearing wraps around them to carry napkins and things. Can you tell it's Friday? I'm losing words. And aprons, that's the word for it. And they had butterflies on them, and they were pink. And I complimented one of the servers on it, and she said, well, of course it's butterflies and pink. It's for Dolly, because we lost our Dolly. I did not know this server. I know she was there serving the community, so that says a lot about her level of humanity. And you're right, Steve, with no AC. There's no AC at our church. It's beautiful and antique and not air conditioned. And it was 108 that day with a heat index of 7, which makes it much hotter than 108. And her thought in all of that while she's running around is Dolly, because that light has been taken. And she said, and we need to take that on so that we're the light, and we're the positive, and we're the butterflies, because she left us with that. She gave us our mission, and our mission is to serve, and our mission is to make the world better. Not politically, although you know me, there will be politics. Not here necessarily, but there'll be politics. But in emulating the values and carrying on the values of someone like Dolly, like Tim, who took on playing someone in drag when it was not cool to do so, to be Eeyore and give voice to people who didn't feel like they had a voice and didn't feel like it's okay to speak because they were sad, which is who Eeyore is. Eeyore tells us it's okay to say, I'm okay, not good, not bad, I'm okay. And you're right, Lynn, the first thing you hear right now is, what about Dolly? Everywhere. I was in downtown Riverside going to court this week, flags at half-mast for Dolly. The changing of the guard on Wednesday was 9 to 5. The changing of the guard today is in honor of the late King of Norway, who's a cousin of King Charles. And their flags are at half staff right now for him. Rainbow flags are up for Tim. I'm not sure what we do for Eeyore other than hold tight to those little creatures who lived in the 100-acre wood and have given comfort to children for 100 years and continue to give it to us. And you have to admit, you can't look at Pooh Bear or Piglet, who was my late wife Linda's favorite, because he never got to ever be a standalone. Did you notice that? You can get everyone else standalone. Piglet is always next to Pooh or Tigger. Piglet never gets his own stuff. Susan Sontag, you work at Disney. We need to work on that. That's your charge from this. We need, and make sure his tail is pinned on right. It's that 100-acre wood where you can have an ADHD Tigger, and he really is. And you can have a Winnie the Pooh who's got some attachment issues, but attached to his Robin. And where you can have an Eeyore who can give voice to his feelings and could probably talk about missing Dolly and not being okay with her being gone. But it's okay. We can keep going because we've got her with us. Just like they did when Christopher Robin grew up. Stephen says Eeyore is him. We've got so many ways to grieve these losses together. And what it comes down to is we need to talk about it together. Lynn, I absolutely expect to hear that in your sermon this week. And I do listen. Yes, I do. Lynn is a preacher at a church at a UCC in Wisconsin. And her church is mighty and small. And she gives great sermons. And she doesn't use notes. I'm so jealous of that. There are so many ways that we can bring these multiple losses that represent the multiple losses all of us have had in our lives or will have in our lives. And that's the important thing, is to bring it up and to talk about it. When we have and this is not the same, celebrity losses are not the same as a mass loss at a shooting. Don't hear me equivocating those. But when there is a mass loss that is violence, the research shows what's important is those most directly impacted coming together and being supported by their outer community, all the circles around them, bringing them in. And what's important in these losses, these celebrity losses that reach back into our childhoods, that reach into our moments of hope, is we need to do it together. Dollywood, I'm calling you out. You did it right. You made an announcement the day she died that you were going to open the chapel at Dollywood. If you don't know that, Dollywood has a chapel. And you were going to have support teams there for your staff because your staff loved her. At the 9 to 5 show in London, while they were getting ready to open, the announcement came out about Dolly, and the audience didn't know because their phones were off. And so the people in the play came out and made an announcement together and grieved with the audience, and then announced they were going to make that a dedication to her and to the values she embraced and to the joy she provided this life and to what that entire play was about, which is, it is the play of the movie 9 to 5, and Dolly put it together, and it's on a worldwide tour. That they wanted that to be their moment of sharing the joy of Dolly so that the grief could start together and so that her message could continue. Which, if you think about it, is what everybody needs after a loss. We need to know that the people we have lost, that their world goes with us, that their impact in the world goes on. It doesn't take away the loss. And it really does impact folks personally. There have been lots of tears worldwide for all of the people we've talked about. When there were newsrooms sharing the messages of these deaths, you're right, Steve, they mattered. If you looked in the back, there were people in the newsrooms hugging each other and crying because they had impacted them too. The folks who are the parents of those who work at Dollywood were making statements about how much her role in their lives had mattered. All the college scholarships, all of the people who became teachers and doctors and lawyers from a tiny little holler in Tennessee. And it was because of her that a tiny little girl wearing a coat of many colors had her music played at Buckingham Palace because of her loss. That would make a difference for years to come for more little girls coming from the poorest of the poor and the unnamed, because Dolly had to make a name for herself. And she did. And Eeyore had to make his place known in the 100-Acre Wood. And he did. With the help of A.A. Milne, of course. But he did. That Tim Curry made his name known in so many platforms. And many of those platforms made such a difference to so many people in so many places, whether it was superhero or our favorite longtime movie, or just the work he did in the world, or his surviving after a long illness and his gracious death. And his friends were people who were from Hollywood, lived near him, and I believe he lived in Toluca Lake, which, by the way, is where Bob Hope lived a long time ago. Dating myself. Those folks had watched him struggle and battle and keep going after major illnesses. And that's a lesson as well. When we have a public loss, we have so many different ways that they matter. So many ways they come into your world. So many ways we take them with us. So many ways we want to think about them. So many ways we want to share them, including taking your 9-year-old neighbor kid to the cemetery in Riverside in October to watch Rocky Horror with flashlights and spray bottles and toast, because you got to do the things. Because that also gave permission for the LGBTQ community to be out in public. And the rest of you had to tolerate us if you wanted to have some fun. Because honestly, our folks know how to dress. They really do. When I went to see Gypsy, who was a very famous drag queen in West Hollywood, Arthur Ashe was sitting at the next table, actually. And Gypsy came out in this amazing Halston dress. Liquid, everything, just beautiful. And said, I know I look beautiful. Do you know this dress weighs 27 pounds and it's all on my shoulders? And every single one of these beads has stitched into it a tiny little knot, and I'm wearing about 60,000 knots pressing into my skin. And that is because in West Hollywood, the men are prettier than the women and have far more style. And that is what Tim Curry gave voice to and gave permission for and allowed people to clap for and allowed people who were straight to participate in it because it was just so much fun. And it gave permission to join together as a community. And we don't want that light to go out, especially not right now. And we don't want Dolly's light to go out right now. Do you know there was a federal judge who struck down the anti-drag law in Texas this week and used Dolly as an example and said, first of all, drag queens emulate Dolly, and she's nothing but wholesome. And number two, even Dolly couldn't dress to meet these standards. And we can't outlaw Dolly Parton in Texas. I do love that. These people mattered in so many ways and changed our world in so many ways and will continue to in so many ways, even in federal court appellate opinions. And there is Dolly Parton. Now, I don't know if Eeyore's going to show up there, but Eeyore shows up in psychology. Eeyore shows up in presentations worldwide on depression and forms of depression and helping kids understand depression. Because Eeyore, we can identify with. And in Europe, which is struggling with its own wave of anti-immigrant bad behavior, brought on largely by our leaders, I'm going to be clear, we exported it. They stamped it out. They got rid of it in World War II. And here we are exporting it. And it was the Norwegian king who spoke back to that. And hopefully you'll find that clip and share it, because it says, in my country, everybody counts. And we should all be able to embrace that. Everybody from everywhere, and you can have a king or a leader who has immigrant parents, and we can embrace them. And we can embrace change as they are in Norway today. The phrase they use after the king has died is, the king is dead, long live the king, because there's a new king instantaneously. We have to embrace change when someone dies, when something changes. But we can take them with us. We have Eeyore in our head. If you think about it right now, you can pull up that sound. Oh, yeah. You can pull it up. At Christmas, when you decide what music you're going to play, if you don't put Hard Candy Christmas in there, please know that Jill will be personally disappointed in you. If you have a child you're working with who comes from poverty, you can play Coat of Many Colors and tell that child they belong, even if their clothing is made from patches. And you know what? A lot of our kids right now are wearing clothes that are thrifted because it's just too darned expensive to go shopping right now. And thrifted is not a bad thing. It's good for the ecology. It's good for the economy of families. Maybe not for big companies, but it's good for families who are monitoring their money and teaching their kids that we have to think about the greater good and the family budget. It's a great thing to talk about that, and for Dolly to be honest about where she came from. And to say, when you have that much money, when you hit that level, you give back. And you give back big time. You put the 100-acre wood on PBS so that it's not a moneymaker for someone. It's an educational moment for children who need to see kindness and acceptance. It's, you give to food banks, as did Tim Curry. You embrace the immigrant, as did the King of Norway. And I want to say there's another clip right now from Norway going around, and that is the first day of kindergarten in Norway. Children would go to the palace or go to their local government headquarters and the leadership there, and they would sing a little song about going off to school and leaving the parents behind, and their parents there with their eyes, like you would be. First day of kindergarten, your kid's going off. And then they practice whatever little dance they've created to approach the leader. And they all have something creative because they're excited about starting this new part of their life, excited about their education. And in Norway, the king and queen participated in that and met children. on their first day of kindergarten. And they could approach them at the palace outside and be part of that. What an amazing example of approachable leadership and caring for the children of the community, regardless of who they are, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of skin color and culture. It's time to go to school. And you as a child, you matter. And with Eeyore, you as a child, if you are feeling sad, you can give voice to it and tell someone you're sad. And if you are sad, you can turn on a Dolly song and turn it around a little bit. And if you are looking for a way to carry the light on of all of these folks, and clearly there's going to be more because we're on one of these things, and maybe it was that moon last night. I don't know. Do you think the moon this week had something to do with this? At any rate, we can give back. You can't afford to give money. You can afford to throw an extra couple cans in the grocery basket from the discount place and donate it. You can afford to pick some flowers and give some to someone who you see looking sad. Deb, who's usually here with me, do you know that Mother's Day week, she goes and gets flowers and just hands them out in parking lots? How cool is that? And she doesn't ask if you're a mom. She just says, it's Mother's Day. I think you should have a flower. I think Eeyore would like that. I know Dolly would like that. I think Tim might think you need to dress a little bit and put some heels on, but I'm not wearing heels, so that's not happening. We have so many ways to carry on the light and to carry on the light of the people we love, who we've lost. And if those losses are weaving in to the public losses for you, if you've had a recent loss and it's tangling up in this, that's okay. It's okay to let those tears go too. It's okay to join them. And it's okay to be Eeyore and tell someone that I'm sad and this is hard. And I want to remember the light and I want to remember the good and I want to do something good with this. And I want to play the music and I want to watch the movies and I want to cuddle my stuffed Eeyore, or in my case, my piglet. And I want to remember and carry on their light, because that is what we do with loss. We don't say that every loss has a reason, but we do say there's a way to make meaning by carrying them on in some way, shape, or form, and talking about them and sharing it and making it part of life ongoing. As Steve does, talking about Harel, as I do, talking about my loved ones, as Lynn will be with her brother's loss, as Ian will with the losses he's experienced. With our losses, these losses, we can talk about them. And that makes it easier for the next person because they know it's okay to say it too. That's why I wear t-shirts to talk about loss, so people have voice. Steve says, wishing everyone a safe and beautiful weekend. Rest in peace to the beautiful souls that have left us. May their lives be for a blessing. Shalom. If you are Shabbating today and tonight, wishing you a peaceful Shabbat, wishing you a peaceful weekend, a peaceful Sabbath, if that is your pattern, a peaceful squirrel day, if that is you. Because you know me, if you follow me on Facebook, squirrels happen. Please take good care of yourselves. Go be Eeyore with a touch of Dolly, with some flair from Rocky Horror, with some of the goodness of the late King of Norway, and with the love of the people that you are carrying with you as well. That's how we do it, folks, with some humor, some grace, and talk about the grief. Thanks for being here. I will see you next week back with Deb. Bye, everyone.